Hi everyone, welcome to my review of Wes Craven's New Nightmare from 1994. So yes, we are back once again, and this time a very interesting film to discuss. And we are finally here with the seventh and therefore final film in the original seven A Nightmare on Elm Street films. And once again, going through this franchise, the box set behind me, great set, and yes, been going through these films on the channel as well for the last over the last few months, yes, we're finally here to discuss the final film in these original seven. I will be reviewing Freddy vs. Jason this week as well, and then comes a ranking. But for now, we're talking about this film here, New Nightmare, of course, directed by Wes Craven, and yes, very unique, I must say, and a film that I've kind of had an interesting experience with over the three watches. I believe I've seen this film three times, and this being the third. A couple of weeks ago, watching this again, I thought, yes, I kind of gathered my thoughts and finally ready to discuss this film with you viewers, of course. And yes, we must say though, spoilers alert, if you haven't seen this film, I simply recommend watching it first, and then you can come back to this review, and it wouldn't be an issue with, for example, spoilers. So yes, with that said, very interesting film, and it's this meta film, and it's such a unique and just creative film here, for its storytelling and what this film is doing. Of course, it's being 10 years after the first film in the franchise. We have all the actors, and the crew, the cast and crew portrayed in this film, and they're kind of are playing themselves. For example, Wes Craven is in the film as well, playing himself. We have Robert Englund playing himself, and of course, the protagonist of this film once again, Langenkamp, and that is special. It really is, and it's lovely to see her coming back, and she is the main protagonist once again. And the basic plot of this film, yes, it concerns this. Kind of at first, the real world, of course, and Langenkamp, Heather is kind of dealing with, the kind of the press and the kind of publicity here, and she's of course at first experiencing these nightmares, and she also kind of receiving these calls from this kind of crazed fan, you could say, doing the kind of quoting the film and in the first film, kind of basically harassing her, but kind of there's this mystery to that, and she's kind of unhinged by this, and constantly calling her up and pretending to be Freddy, doing this kind of voice, and yes, she lives at this point, with her husband and son, the son being Dylan, and Chase being the husband, and she has this family now, which is very nice to see. Yes, we have these kind of scenes on set. Of course, at this point, she's kind of working in TV, and she's being asked though if she would reprise her role, in these films. And from there, we have the kind of slow, gradual, and very unique kind of transitioning to into the actual film world, the film universe, going throughout the film. So in that sense, we have the real world, these actors kind of playing themselves. For example, or the crew members, you have Robert Shaye in the film, you have Wes Craven, as I've said. And yes, we have this, but then slowly things to kind of start to actually transition and turn into the kind of fictional world, the kind of film universe of the films. And then we have Freddy, once again, in the final act. It kind of culminates with Heather Langenkamp, playing essentially Nancy once again, and finally, one last time, kind of facing off against Freddy and defeating Freddy, and very unique, and I must say, pretty epic, if you ask me. This film, I must say, originally, we'll start with kind of my first experience with this film. I had the DVD set. When I was younger, of course. As I've said, I watched these films from a young age and loved quite a few of them. I didn't respond too well back then to The Dream Child, but most of the other ones, yes, I liked, really liked. Of course, the first one, the first three especially, loving them, and just having a great time with different moments, even in Freddy's Dead. But when I watched this one, there was that kind of confusion with this. Actually, I must say, first viewing, didn't like this film. Didn't like it. Didn't connect to what they were doing for this film, and I just wanted. I was kind of. I remember kind of thinking, what's going on here? Why is this not an actual slasher film. I understood it, but I kind of thought, why? I wanted another slasher. This is an actual kind of straightforward slasher, I guess. One of these films in the same universe, and with the kind of the things that I came to expect, of this and the bombastic moments and all these different, violent, kills and all these kinds of things, and of course, just the kind of the usual Freddy in this film. He is different, and I watched it and I didn't like it. I watched it a second time, fairly shortly after that first viewing. I was around 10 or so, and yes, I remember thinking, actually, I kind of like it, and I get behind it more, and I understand, all of it. I did understand it the first viewing, but I was unsure of a few things, because it's kind of blurring the lines, this one, between a kind of fantastical, and kind of particular universe of the films of the franchise with this kind of own universe that's created, and it's kind of a mix here. We have, you could say, part of film that's very much part of the franchise. On the other hand, you have this kind of standalone film that is in a very separate universe, and it kind of links the two together. And I guess I wasn't quite ready. I didn't know about this film before watching it for the first time. I didn't know what was going to be happening. I didn't know this was going to be this, and I got it, and I didn't get what I expected. But I came around a bit, but I never regarded this film, as one of my, as one of the films in the franchise that I loved, actually. And it's very interesting to kind of watch it once again. And this time round, I must say, I really love this film. I think it's so good. It's such an impressive film, and so investing. And actually, instantly I just loved these different moments. You have a film that tributes the first in particular, but other films as well. There are some actors, other actors that are in the films. Some of the later sequels that appear in this film, although they don't really have as much of a role. We have mainly though John Saxon. He is quite big in the film. As playing himself eventually. Donald, as we know. But of course, Heather Langenkamp. She is the main. Kind of actor that was present, in some of the other films, and of course she was in 1 and 3, and she's of course the main protagonist once again in this film, and obviously Robert Englund playing Freddy and himself, but the Freddy we get in this film, it's really great to see once again going back to the scary, menacing, evil Freddy, you could say, and very interesting. We don't really have too many jokes in this film, through Freddy in that sense. It's really a return to the original vision, I guess, of Wes Craven, in this character, Freddy Krueger, and very interesting because he actually comes into the real world, instead of just most of the time remaining in the dreams. For example, in the other films, aside from, we don't always have this, but mainly he did. I think to Freddy's Revenge, when saying that, but mainly we did have this, this character Freddy, mainly remaining in the dream world. He did not come over into the real world, but in this film he does, and very interesting. It's kind of its own thing, and of course the costume, the attire, the makeup is all different for Freddy, and it's really geared towards being more of a menacing and less jokey, less comical, you could say less charming Freddy. And as I say, we don't really get any jokes in this film through Freddy, really, and it's kind of doing away with what happened in some of the, I mainly think, 4 onwards, them sequels, but you could say 3 as well, a bit more jokey. But the first 2, especially the first film, it's kind of going back to that kind of tone of Freddy, and that approach, what he was and how he acted, and just his overall, the way in which he, I guess, was kind of after the protagonist of said film. In this case, once again, being the great Heather Langenkamp, and playing herself, but then kind of also playing Nancy, and it's great to see we have this kind of spiritual sequel here that's kind of its own thing in its own universe, but it is kind of as well going over into the other universe we had of the first 6. Very very cleverly doing this, actually. I must say, some really good writing here, and I must say it was a treat to see Wes Craven in this film. I personally was a big fan of seeing him in this film, and there's scenes when he's talking to Nancy. You know, I loved the moments. You know, just the kind of the whispering, you know, throughout that scene, really, really funny. But you know, I loved seeing Wes Craven, and it's just a treat. You know, of course, he created this series, and for him to actually have an acting role, you know, in this film is really, really great. You know, I guess many of you fans out there kind of feel the same way. You know, it's very much a treat. You know, a gift to kind of see him acting in the film, and you know, as for that, you know, as I say, very, very enjoyable indeed, and just this warmth, you know, between him and Heather, and you know, just I really love seeing that. I love seeing Robert Shaye as well, and just really, just such you know, kind of interesting concept with this film, and you know, really well thought out. And this time around again, we have this real investment that I thought was lacking in, you know, 5 and 6, for example, and even 4. The first 3, you know, Nightmare films, for me are just films I absolutely love, and this one here, I love it as well. You know, it's certainly a film that's kind of, you know, I've really come around to. It's grown on me to the point where I do actually love the film now, and you know, it's pretty much a great film. You know, it's maybe not, you know, the actual great mark for me, but you know, it's very much borderline and pretty much, I would say, a great film. You know, there are some things at first, you know, it takes a while to really get to the level of the rest of the film. But you know, seeing the first act, we have, yeah, it's very peaceful, just kind of, I guess, novel moments, you know, interactions. I think it really hinges on that at first, and it's nice to see, you know, interactions between. You know, actual cast and crew members, you know, of this franchise, and just seeing that kind of play out, and you know, Nancy and Chase, it's kind of nice to see. I guess Chase wasn't a great character, and you know, things could have been better in the kind of the first act of the film, but really 35, you know, 40 minutes in, and it really takes over, and you know, really becomes this highly investing film, you know, that is mostly great, you know, for the rest of the film, and just really. A stunning final act in many regards. I love the kind of the final act in terms of visuals, you know, the action, and just the, you know, the scenes, you know, Heather or Nancy versus Freddie. You know, of course, how she becomes Nancy. Well, you know, it kind of it's due to Wes kind of having this, you know, this new script for another film in the franchise. Secretly writing this, he eventually reveals this to Nancy, you know, or Heather, and she kind of plays, in that sense, the original role, and reprises this role, you know, but not kind of where everyone, of course, is watching this film, but you know, this kind of fantastical way in which it leads very interestingly, and very, you know, it's very hard to pull off in this way, but organically and kind of fantastically leads into, you know, another Nightmare film within a film that is kind of its own thing and not part of the universe, but then it kind of is. You know, it's very interesting. It's mainly that in the last 40 minutes it is, you know, another Nightmare film, you could say, within a film that is, you know, a Nightmare on Elm Street, you know, kind of 7, you know, it's kind of a very interesting film indeed, and I think the final act, though, you know, is great. Of course, we have, you know, different side characters in this film, you know, Tracy Middendorf playing Julie, you know, so essentially this character who looks after Dylan, obviously, and yeah, she is in the film. She is quite a good character as well, very enjoyable, and I like the interactions with her, you know, and Heather, and you know, it's very warm, this film, and saying that, I love as well the kind of, you know, the heart of the film where we have, you know, it's very nice to see as well, very emotionally satisfying for the actual franchise as a whole, because we have Heather essentially now finally being an actual mother, you know, in the film, and you know, if you've seen, you know, the other films in the franchise, obviously the first film we had just Nancy, you know, this kind of this individual at school, and you know, in the third film though, when she reprised her role, she's essentially kind of this mother figure, and you're not you know, having an actual kid in the film, but you know, I commented on Dream Warriors saying how much I love the kind of the really nice kind of motherly figure, you know, feel, you know, that she has in that film over the group, and it was really great to see. And in this film, she actually does have a kid, so it's kind of a nice progression, you know, of this character. You know, throughout the films, you know, in the franchise, and it really pays, you know, tribute to these films with the respect, you know, and the kind of, the kind of it holds back in the right places with this. It doesn't go too far. It's not a cheap kind of playing off of these films, and I think that's obviously down to Wes Craven, writing and directing this film. Of course, it's just really his vision, and him being the actual creator of this franchise. He really kind of made one last final film here. That really is again a worthy film within the franchise, and one that really honours the original and just various films in the franchise, and just a great wrap up. Where Freddy's Dead, for example, is a film that I do like. I've said that before. I like that film, but I certainly take this film over Freddy's Dead, and this is a better, a more kind of satisfying, more enjoyable, and I think more worthy kind of final film for these original 7 films, in the series. And we have obviously Freddy vs. Jason, and we could have some more, obviously, films in the future. Obviously, we've had the remake and stuff, but yes, this film here of the original 7, it is a great way, really worthy way to end these films, and really paying tribute, and just its own thing as well. Though it's not, as I say, hinging on the kind of the appeal of these films. It's just where right, where appropriate, kind of paying homage, and really taking, especially Heather Langenkamp in an interesting way, and for her to be playing Heather Langenkamp herself and Nancy, it's just really great to see. And I think as well, we have John Saxon in the film, and really, really touching stuff there as well. I love the interactions, just really, really warm, kind of discussions, the park, for example. I love that in the middle of the film, or later on in the film, and really once Chase, is dispatched in the film, her husband, really kind of opens up, and we have the kind of dealing with the of that, the tragedy of that, and we have Dylan, for example, responding in different ways. Also the Heather, and eventually, being Nancy in the film, and I love the moment when we have that kind of the part where John Saxon, instantly within the kind of same scene, transitions back to Donald, and then he goes back to not believing her, and it's kind of this really oh wow moment. It's really, really cleverly done, and just really very interesting. How this is shifting gears, you could say, and then it kind of becomes in the final act this epic showdown with a great kind of a great piece of kind of music playing as well throughout most of these sequences. In the final act, we have some real creativity as well, fantastical moments here, all out in the final act, and it really doesn't hold back, and you could say one of the best final acts in the series, actually, and really it doesn't start off as good as it certainly as the outcome. This film here really is one of the strongest points of the film is the final act, in my opinion, and it's just really great to see in the end the kind of really kind of spiritual moments between Heather and Dylan, and he says, is this is the story here, and she then reads him the script, as we know, and it kind of really lovely moment there, the music, the kind of moving out, and just that shot there, the final shot, really, really touching moment, and just a very graceful way, I feel, to end this franchise, in this sense. The original 7, it's a great wrap up, and I think, as I say, things could have been better in the first act, and this is not a film that goes to the level of the first film, really. It's not quite, overall for me, a truly remarkable film here. But what this film is, it's really, pretty much a great film. I'd say borderline great. I'd actually say it's very, very good, and it's on the level of the second film. And yes, just really, at the same time though, it's a film that I do love, and I really, I kind of really take so much from this film. Actually seeing these real characters, being played by the different actors, and then the transition into the kind of film world, this kind of universe. It's very, very interesting. We have kind of 2 films in one, actually, and really, really interesting, very clever, and hats off to Wes Craven for coming up with this idea here, and it's a really, really interesting film. very compelling, very investing new characters in the film, and also just seeing the kind of the way in which different characters that were in different films in the series are back here, and they are kind of different, and they have progressed, and they have gone through these transitions. But again, you have that familiar feeling, and also this really unique film as well. A great score as well by J. Peter Robinson, and just really interesting cinematography here. We have this kind of warm palette as well as this cool effect at times as well later on in the film, and I really like the way the neighbourhood is portrayed. Just seeing just the warmth through the visuals alone, and just the editing is very dreamy effect it has, and just really you can tell this film here has been so well thought out. Really interesting and unique kind of concept here. Of course, once again, Wes Craven writing and directing this film, and it really shows. He really brought something very interesting here, and just really tributing the rest of the films, particularly the first we have as well, when Heather fully kind of embraces in a way Nancy. We have that in the final act. Then she kind of goes back, and Freddie is really into this kind of world. He fully returns, and we have, of course, the original neighbourhood, and her clothing as well. Kind of returns. Great moment there, and I love how this kind of crossover effect happens, and it's a really kind of patient film in the way it happens. It builds up organically, kind of suggested at early on. We have these subtle moments, and moments, of course, with the phone calls. We have this kind of intensity, with Nancy, or at that point Heather, having these dreams and these nightmares, and then eventually, in the final act, it really comes together, and it's a very impressive film in that sense, and just the framing at times. It's a real return to this kind of visionary piece. I feel that some of the sequels, I must say, in comparison, the first three were lacking, but this one, once again, it really, it's just very. Very interesting here, very compelling in the visuals, and of course the story and just the emotions of the characters, playing themselves, and then kind of embracing their or reprising their roles, without actually wanting to. The characters in the film, for example, Heather does not want to, but then she actually has to finally defeat Freddy, and really great ideas here. Wes Craven, is just really just he was such a visionary, and this film here, once again, just I feel my love. It's just so enjoyable. A horror slasher, fantasy, and meta film as well. It's really interesting kind of mix here, and I think it doesn't perhaps it doesn't blow me away, kind of this truly overall stunning film in every act, but it has so much greatness in this film, and I do overall love this film, and I think just seeing kind of the way it kind of explores filmmaking as well. It's one of them films that kind of shows the process, and kind of makes comments on filmmaking behind the scenes, and having the cast and crew kind of playing themselves at one point in the film. It's really great to see, and kind of adds to this whole kind of theme of actually exploring filmmaking in this way, publicity as well, and some comedy in there as well, in that sense, early on, seeing the kind of the talk shows, all this kind of stuff. Robert Englund, it's great to see, and once again we have this kind of portrayal of Freddy, which is very different, but in a way is a callback, as a kind of return to the original few in the franchise. So yes, what do I think of this film? I think it's very good. Pretty much a great film, but for me, I'm going to give it the same score that I gave the second film, which is Freddy's Revenge, and that is an 89%. Yes, indeed, and that's great to see. For a film that I previously, on my first watch when I was younger, I didn't respond to, and even on the second watch back then, I didn't love the film. I absolutely do now, and I think this is a really worthy film to kind of close these original 7 films. Again, it's not fully part of the same universe, but it kind of is, in the same way. It leads in that sense to the kind of the film universe, for Nightmare films, and as well, at the same time, it's kind of this own thing. It's kind of the real world. It's a great way it kind of transitions, and I think There are some things that I think could have been better, and the first act, it takes a while for me to really, kind of get the feelings that I get in the rest of the film. Maybe perhaps the first act, it lacks that kind of, just that magic. I feel that the second and the final act have. But this film, pretty much a great film. This and Freddy's Revenge, they kind of are to me. But just slightly under. In the percentage that I give them, an 89. It is pretty much for me a great film, and what I feel about, for example, is Freddy's Revenge. It's one of my favourite horror films. Among them. So yes, I do love the film, and pretty much great, borderline great, and overall though, an 89 is yes, technically very good. Very very good for me. But I kind of consider this Freddy's Revenge, you know, great at the same time in their own kind of ways. And this one here, once again, I loved it, and just to see that kind of me, my progression here went from not liking it really to kind of liking it to loving it this time around. So yeah, great stuff, and such an impressive and engaging, in places magical film here. Horror film, very clever, and really felt at times, and nice to see the actual individuals involved in these films playing themselves, especially Wes Craven, a highlight in this film, and just seeing him, with Heather, it's just really interesting, and a real warmth, and it's very felt, and you can just see a kind of sincerity here, and I really love Heather Langenkamp in this film. She's great, and John Saxon is great. Kind of this really nice father figure to her outside of the actual film universe. That is portrayed. The actual kind of the real world in this film. We have John Saxon playing himself. We have this kind of father figure role that he kind of shows towards Heather, and that's really nice to see. And it's just, I love the transition, as I say, into the actual film universe, and the different characters reprising their roles one last time, and of course being Freddy as well, by Robert Englund. So yes, Robert Englund once again though, yes, is great, and I love the design. Very different. I do prefer, no doubt, I prefer the kind of the other Freddy, in the sense of the other films in the franchise. I prefer this Freddy. I prefer his design. I prefer the way in which he's not as kind of purely menacing, kind of evil, scary, serious in that sense. Even in the first film, he is jokey. It's kind of campy, but at the same time, scary character. The design is just. I do prefer the design on the other films, but I do love this design, and I love. The kind of course, the claw in this film is just really, it's very epic, and an epic film, an epic final act, and overall, yes, definitely an epic horror film. Fantastical, dreamy, and I love different characters in this film. Heather, of course, slash Nancy, also Dylan in this film, and Julie is really good as well, and. Just different characters, as well. Some could have been better, for example, Chase, but this film, when it kind of gets over that first act, it really is mostly throughout the rest of the film a great experience, and the final act is just so satisfying, and also leaving that sense of mystery and wonder, and is it this, is it that, in the end. So great stuff. The way the film ends, the final shot is very very effective, and wrapping things up spiritually, and in a way of a direct wrap up, but also just leaving things a little bit unsettling at the same time. And also the beauty of this film, it's great to see juxtaposed with the kind of surreal element, and the kind of intensity to the film with the beauty. It's really nice to see, and I love, once again, to say I love this film. It's pretty much a great film for me, and 89%, very high score, and the same score I did give to Freddy's Revenge. And so find out though what I prefer out of Freddy's Revenge and this on the ranking. The ranking will be up this week, before the end of Halloween, the 31st obviously of October. So I'll say that now, and Freddy vs Jason, that'll be up after this review, and shortly after. And yes, I will be doing a ranking of 8 films, including Freddy vs. Jason. So Freddy vs. Jason and the original 7 films, in the Nightmare on Elm Street series. So yes, I look forward to that, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts on the ranking, and just your rankings, of course. And leave your thoughts on this if you want. It'd be great to know what you think. Tell me what you think in the comments. This is just my opinion of Wes Craven's New Nightmare, and from there we go and we talk about this film. And kind of sparks kind of go into different conversations potentially. But yes, let's start by talking about this film, if you want, and this franchise, and what do you think of this film? Be very interested to know, and I always appreciate the great comments. I've been having a great time reviewing these films. Big part of my childhood, and it's just this great franchise for me, and just great to talk about. Always very interested to hear your thoughts on these films, and this obviously is a bit of a divisive film. That kind of makes it more interesting. Very unique film, completely different at times to the other films in the franchise, and for that it really is interesting to kind of hear your thoughts. So don't hesitate if you want to kind of leave your thoughts on the films and this film in particular. Always welcome and respectful comments, and just great conversations. Be great to do. And yes, obviously a reminder once again, Freddy vs. Jason will be coming very soon. Review that, and then shortly after that, before the end of Halloween, I will get up my ranking of the original 7 and Freddy vs. Jason in there, so 8 films in the franchise, and I really look forward to that. Again, that'll be up. All these films will be up. All these videos will be up this week, and I look forward to hearing your thoughts, of course. And yes, I look forward to it. And as always, take care, and thanks for watching.